Hi, I'm Ryan with the R&R Law Group. Today we're talking about probation and some of the common questions that we get in regards to probation. So mostly what we're talking about is when you're given probation after a felony charge. So you've gone through a change of plea proceeding, or maybe you've gone to trial and were found guilty, done with sentencing, and at sentencing then you were placed on probation. That was the sentence that the judge gave you, or that was the sentence that was agreed to in the plea agreement. So there's three types of probation that we have. There's unsupervised, there's supervised probation, and then there's intensive probation, IPS. Some people say that stands for in prison soon, but it stands for intensive probation services. So what is unsupervised probation? Well, it's a lot like what it sounds like. It's basically no supervision. You're going to send in your monthly check to the probation department. If you had to complete any classes, community service, anything else like that, those are things that go in monthly to the probation department. You basically just can't get in trouble during the time that you're on probation. Make sure that you're abiding by all of the other terms of probation. And then when that time period has lapsed, whether it's 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, however long you were sentenced to the unsupervised probation, once that time period has lapsed, then you're going to be off of probation. The kind of intermediate supervision level is the supervised probation. What that means then is that you've got an assigned probation officer, someone that's going to be checking in on you. You may have monthly meetings with them. You may have weekly meetings with them. Oftentimes what I tell people is, in the beginning, the supervision's much more strict than what happens as you go down the road. So as you've proven yourself that you're not going to cause problems, that you're not going to have any issues with probation, that the supervised probation then becomes much less difficult to deal with. You still have your monthly payment that you pay to the supervision or supervised probation team. Any restitution payments, court-ordered drug and alcohol counseling, anything else that is ordered as part of that, that's all going to go to the person that you check in with for your supervised probation, and then they're going to give reports to the court. The nice thing about supervised probation is that if you're working with an individual person, so what can happen is, let's say you had 100 hours of community restitution that was owed, and you had to pay $500 in restitution back to whoever was the victim or whoever was owed restitution. What will happen with supervised probation is oftentimes once you complete all of those terms, and you've been on probation for about half time, so if you were sentenced to 3 years of probation, once you've been on for 18 months, your probation officer then can actually petition the court and ask that you be released from probation early. So that's oftentimes why we talk about have that good relationship with the probation officer if you're sentenced to probation, because that's what you want to gain. You want to be able to get off of probation as early as possible, and that probation officer is going to be able to help you do that so long as you've completed everything else that you have. Okay, so intensive probation. This is oftentimes for someone who's been given a couple of shots at probation already, either hasn't gone well or they've had some petitions to revoke. What happens then is that this is a much, much more scrutinized type of probation. They monitor your schedule. Every week you have to supply them with a schedule of where you're going to be and account for all 24 hours of the day for that entire week. You actually have to submit your paycheck to the probation department, and they then can disperse restitution payments or fines and fees, payments for those. That's what's going to happen on intensive probation. It's very difficult. It's kind of that last chance that you're going to get while you're on probation. So again, that's why a lot of people joke and say IPS stands for in prison soon, because it is a very difficult probation to get done. So a lot of people then do get revoked. They do end up going to prison based on this, but it's not impossible to complete. You can still complete it. You just have to make sure that you're riding the line for everything that you've got, and you've got to be in a lot of contact with your probation officer. It is very difficult, but not impossible. Okay, so what types of things happen on probation? Well, you're going to have your fines. That's going to depend. kind of upon what was the underlying charge. So for all drug offenses, there are some mandatory fines and fees that you have to pay. For DUIs, there are mandatory fines that you have to pay. So that's all going to depend upon the charge. The courts will work out a monthly payment plan with you. The fees, again, generally for most all felonies, the monthly service probation fee is about $75 a month. It's a little bit higher with IPS, and it also depends upon what other services are being provided. There are some mental health services that are provided. There are drug and alcohol services that are provided. There's domestic violence terms that can be imposed. All of those are different terms that can be imposed as part of the probation services. Your $75 a month is going to cover just some of the basic things with it. Jail. It's one thing that we talk to everybody about. As a term of probation, even if there's a plea agreement that doesn't include jail on it, that jail time is up to the judge at sentencing. So even if you agreed to a probation plea agreement, the judge could still impose up to a year in jail as a term of probation. Now, we don't see that very often if it's not asked for in the plea agreement. Most judges will not order upfront jail. Some will maybe do some deferred jail where you don't serve it right away. You get a chance to go on probation, make sure that you're doing everything right, and if you are, then you don't ever get put into jail. So those are one of the things that we talk about with any probation grant that is given. Something that I also talk to a lot of people about is, what happens if you can't pay your fees, you can't pay your fines, or something like that comes up. What you want to do is make sure that you're in contact with your probation officer. Make sure that you're paying at least something towards that, even if it's only $5 a month. That's something where as long as you're in constant contact with your probation officer, as long as you're making an effort to complete any of the terms that you have, then most of the probation officers are going to work with you. They're not going to do something where it's going to revoke your probation. They're not going to try and throw you in prison because you can't make a payment. All right? That's one of the biggest things that we see is that people get scared and they don't contact their probation officer. All right? That's one of the worst things that you can do. You'll be considered to have absconded from probation, and that is a big reason why they'll revoke your probation, is because they just don't know where you're at. The probation time doesn't run and just be over. You're going to end up on a warrant status, and then you're going to end up down in the probation revocation, down in the basement of the Central Court building. That's not a place you want to be. So these are the different levels of probation that you're given in Maricopa County. It's very similar in a lot of the outlying counties as well. But if you have any questions, give our office a call. We'd be happy to help.